this demo, we'll be going through the consumption section of the license record in detail. I'm going to navigate to Licenses, All Licenses, and select the license to review this with. I'm going to open up my Adobe Acrobat Pro 2017. I'm going to navigate to the consumption section of this license. As you can see, the basic details here would be, depending on the license type, would be the device. If this was a user type license, it would be the user. Would be the inventory device type and the amount of licenses consumed. In this case, for this one is 1. This section would show whether the product is installed or not on a device. That comes into play when you're looking at virtual environments, and so the product is not necessarily installed on the host or in the cluster, but on a specific VM. You also will see a use, yes or no, which would determine if the application triggering the consumption has been launched within the last 90 days. You also by default see an exemption reason, and any exemption reasons populated would keep this from consuming upon the next reconcile. So the consumption would say 0 for a device that had an exemption reason. Last column is allocation type. The allocation type determines if this is an allocation and the type of that allocation. In this case, it is showing unallocated, which means the consumption is falling to this license based on the reconciliation engine. To see the details behind that reconciliation engine and how things were determined to be consuming against this particular license, you could also show assessment details. This will give you a list of all applications that can consume against that license, the license name that it is consuming against, the computer name, the license device type, whether it's primary or supplementary, and we'll also show you the assessment result. If it says consume, that means that it did go to that license name. You might see things down lower, like this is a different application name, but still a part of that record, and you would see a reason that it was not assessed is because the device is using a higher priority license. So this is a way you can really get down to the details of how that consumption was assessed and assigned to that license if it's unallocated. Let's go back to our license record here. You can allocate devices and or users depending on the license type, and I think we had a previous section going over allocations, but just as a reminder, you can search for a device, in this case, since it is a device type license, and you can allocate that. Its allocation type would default to allocated. A device can be allocated, awaiting inventory, or permanent based on the assigned allocation type. All allocations default to the allocated status. There's also a reason field that you can add for allocations if you want to record the reasoning behind that allocation. I'm going to walk to our consumption tab, and I'm going to add an allocation reason. And this is a free text field where you can record an allocation reason if you have chosen to allocate a device. Next, I want to talk about exemptions. Highlight a single item or multiple items, and you can exempt based on a reason. We have a default list of reasons within the system, but you can also below add a custom reason by clicking Add or Edit, and you can add that custom reason and click Save. Custom reasons fall below the line in the list. And so if you know you're using a custom reason, you can scroll past those and it would be one below the line. Keep in mind, no matter what the exemption reason says, if it is applied upon next reconciliation, that device would not consume. All exemptions are allocations, as you can see as I applied one here. The next thing I want to point out is managing license keys. You see, we do have an import keys button available here where you can import your license keys by creating a single column worksheet with the title of license key value. Browse and import those license keys from there. If you do not see this import keys option, it means you have probably missed the step of enabling a license key rule on the identification tab. If you can see, I have enabled a one single install key per installation. If this is not enabled on the identification tab, you would not see the import keys selection box. For managing license keys, I'm going to add a column, and that column is going to be license keys. If I had imported license keys from the import keys, they would be available in the drop-down. You can also add them manually, which I'll do for our demo. I'm going to add license key number 1 and license key number 2 and license key number 3. From that list, I can assign those license keys. If you'll notice, once a license key is assigned, it also becomes an allocation, as you can see here. So I've assigned license key 1 to this computer. I've assigned license key 2 to this computer and license key 3 to this computer. I no longer have license keys to assign, and so the ones that don't have an assigned license key would be running in a deficit because they don't have that license key. So how can I reuse license keys? It's as simple as if this device no longer exists, meaning it doesn't have an application installed, upon the next reconciliation, it would not even be here, or you could deallocate this. And by clicking the deallocate button, I remove the allocation, and it also would remove the license key, and I could reapply that to an additional device.